Hello, my friend. So today I'm going to talk about romantic relationships. Um, Sometimes a touchy topic, and the reason why I'm talking about it through my own experience in my past, going through unhealthy relationships and understanding my partners, and then understanding my own subconscious patterns that prevented me to shift, and how I got out of it. Um, First of all, no matter where you're at, we are where we're supposed to be. I'm a true believer that. And there was definitely a phase in my past where I probably would have questioned that. But with hindsight, I do believe those things had to happen for me to evolve within myself. So I'm going to talk about romantic relationships, but these tools you will be able to apply on any other relationship as well. So it could be a friendship, could be in business relationships, and so on. So I've been lately gotten a lot of from on social media certain requests, questions for people that met me there, and also observing relationships from clients that needed feedback from friends that got to me to um, give my feedback or assist. So I think there are definitely patterns and that I want to talk about today. So fairly recent, I went through some books from Carl Jung. I went through some authors that talk about shadow work and projections. So projections are emotions that we project on the people around us, um, and they can be positive and also negative. Um, the less healthy you are, psychologically seen, or the less self-reflected you are, the more you will project, especially when it comes to negative projections. But in general, we all do it now and then. So once you realize, have compassion with yourself. It doesn't mean that you're a good or bad person. We all do it at times, especially when we are very emotionally involved. Um, I have been through a few toxic relationships myself, and I forgave things that I had to forgive. Um, and at the same time, I do believe we are where we're supposed to be. So there were certain aspects that I had to learn personally to evolve and to grow and to leave those relationships. So for me, the biggest aspect was that harmony was a big core value of mine. And for me, it was difficult to create confrontation. Now, as a coach, I understand that confrontation is sometimes, very often actually, important to get to a solution. So now, when I realize that something is not aligned, I approach these aspects right away. Um, and we'll get to that why. Um, I got actually today in the morning from an old friend from Germany a message, and I asked her a couple of few things, and she was talking about that she's still sometimes struggling with self-confidence. I think we all do at times, but I started to ask a couple more questions, and what I realized is so she's quite self-reflected, and she's still getting triggered by certain aspects, and she's not um, communicating them when they occur, so she postpones it. I could relate because that was something that I used to do as well, and this is the part that I talked about is I could ask her, how do you want to have self-confidence if you're not confident and supporting yourself, your own values, and what you believe in? So when you are quote unquote a people's pleaser and you try to avoid conflict and try to make everybody happy, you're not respecting yourself. So you have to start to respect yourself to then communicate what you need. Very often you see the more intense that part gets, um, very often there's either the two things that you learn. Either you get resentful, um, or you start to bend reality, um, which we all do to a certain extent again. Um, so let's say you have the situation yourself. You don't want to address some things that have to be addressed. There are two aspects that can happen, and usually when you go through your mind, the fear is always the strongest part. So, situation one, you assume that your partner will blow up, your partner will leave you, um, and you will be by yourself. Yeah, worst case scenario. Um, if that was the case, I would say it's a good thing. The reason why I said that is that if the person doesn't want to learn to communicate, doesn't want to learn to listen and to validate your emotions, maybe it's not the person that you should be in a relationship with, right? So, which leads to opportunity or situation number two. Situation number two is most likely to happen. So, your partner will listen to you. Your partner will hopefully acknowledge your emotions, and then you will be able together to find a solution. If he doesn't validate your emotions, then there are certain things that he might be able to learn, or you create conclusions for yourself that improve the outcome. Now, I talked about projections. We all do it at times. If you're new in a relationship, you will actually project a lot, and but you will project your ideal partner on the partner that you're choosing right now. So that's why you're in the honeymoon phase. The first 3 to 6 months, you usually don't meet the person that is in front of you, because you think that's just the other person pretending to be somebody they're not, and to a certain extent that's the case. But also, and even more important, it is that um, we are projecting our ideal image onto the partner, right? So after those 3 to 6 months, reality kicks in, and then in a somewhat healthier relationship, you adjust and you learn the partner, and you start to improve your communication. In an unhealthy relationship, usually in a toxic relationship, the partner will project all of their negativity onto you, and you know things get very dicey there. But that being said, if you're looking to getting into a relationship, um, really wait 3 to 6 months, and then you really know who the person is. You can now decide, and I think this is very important. And in some previous relationships, I made that mistake myself, because I tend to fix my partners, or want to fix them, and I have to learn, or had to learn to let them do their own fixing and see if they're even willing to improve or change, because realistically, the majority of people don't have a growth mindset; they have a fixed mindset. So, meaning they will or want, because of fear, shame, and so on, stay where they are. So, look at the partner, and see if the person decides not to change the blueprint that they have. How much overlap do you have with your ideal partner? And the parts of the partner that are not overlapping are these aspects that you can live with as is or not. Um, we tend to assume that the person will change, but again, most likely they're not. And be honest with yourself and say, are these things that I'm fine with, or are these aspects that are against my core values, and they're really not things that I can live with, unless the person changes. But most likely, these aspects will not change, or not much. So get clarity there. Now, um, regarding negative emotions or negative projections in relationships, um, everything that we uh, everything that we say about the partner, we should try to turn it around. So, meaning, if somebody says, "You don't love me," right? Then very likely that person doesn't love themselves enough. So if I tell you you don't love me, then my question was, okay, how can I improve my self love? What is missing within me? And there are certain things that you can work on. There is a friend that came to me and she was talking, she had a fight with her boyfriend. And the boyfriend just got divorced. They got together, were 6 months together, and she was talking about getting married. And he said that he wasn't planning to get married again. Due to that, for her, it was like, okay, then we don't have to continue this. And she basically, um, they went, at least for a while, into different directions. Um, the question that I have is, when you said, "Oh, you don't love me because you don't want to get married to me," when you turn it around, what does that mean? Are you actually committed to the relationship enough that you said, if you don't love me or if you don't get married, that means you don't love me, which means um, I'm leaving the relationship? I think then there is, from your side, not enough of a buy-in, um, or your blueprint is not congruent with the ones of the partner. So how? So I asked her. She knew his love language, and I asked her, "Is he expressing his love through his love language?" And she says yes. Um, And I said, like, well, what are aspects that you need from him besides getting married to meet you halfway? Um, and he is expressing his love. So, how can you in return express your love so that eventually he will realize that you might be the right person without having him without having to push him into a marriage? If he gets there, good. If not, also good. But maybe if you um, fuel his needs, then eventually he will get to the point that he said, okay, this is the right partner to get married to. Um, Another aspect I think that is important, don't try to impress your partner, rather impress yourself. So, what are the things that you can improve within yourself to feel better about yourself? When you do so, you will express it, people feel your energy, and you don't have to impress anymore. Couple other aspects. Whenever we are projecting or we're saying that the partner should be doing this or shouldn't be doing this, we are in um, him or her business. So, what does that mean? The only thing that we can change is me business, our business, right? When we are saying he should be doing this, she should be doing this, then we're giving the power away. We become the victim. When we say, what is the power? What can I change in the situation? Then we maintain the power within us. Any emotions that is elicited, like is created within ourselves, is not something that there are behaviors from the other person that might not be appropriate. Nevertheless, we decide on how we react to that behavior. We can learn to reframe pretty much anything. We can learn to the point where we acknowledge the behavior that the other person is um, creating or what the other person is saying is not effective. The behavior is something that they are struggling themselves with. They might project their own shortcomings onto you, or there might certain things that their perception is off, and due to that twisted, distorted perception, they try to poke you or try to bring certain things up that might be not realistic, let's say. Nevertheless, when it triggers you, then it's emotion that you create within yourself, right? Because of certain subconscious patterns. If you expect your partner to love you, start loving yourself first. When you love yourself, you don't need anybody else anymore. If you have the right partner and the right partner does the same thing, does it increase the overall love within the relationship? Absolutely. It's not a 50-50 anymore, because it comes then at 100%. But you have to find the love within yourself first. Having enough love to say, I communicate my needs, right? To then make changes in the relationship. Another good example for a challenge or communication challenge in a relationship, especially when you have an introvert extrovert. Let's say you have a couple, one introvert, one extrovert. The extrovert wants to solve the problem usually right away and is creating physical closeness to the introvert. The introvert has to internalize, process their thoughts first. So usually what you will see is the introvert will try to leave the situation to process information. The extrovert will follow the partner around. So what's the solution here? Well, you have to communicate. The introvert has to communicate. I need time to process this information. I'm getting flooded. And give the extrovert, here in this case, the information. Let's meet in half an hour, let's meet tonight at 5 o'clock, just an example, and discuss this. And the introvert has to meet up on that promise. That's very important. The extrovert has to learn, the introvert is actually meeting up with me. We're going to solve this one. We're going to discuss this later on. So there are two things that happen. Introvert has time to process all these emotions first. The extrovert will also have time to process, but also will be able to let the emotions calm down. Remember, whenever we are triggered, our amygdala is charged, so that's where our emotions are charged. But the problem is, when we are emotionally charged, we lose the full access to our prefrontal cortex. That's where executive thinking, long-term planning, and so on, solution finding is located. So we need a minimum of 20 to 30 minutes to let our amygdala, without thinking about the problem, because that creates those emotions, calm down again. Yeah. Once our amygdala is calmed down, we come as a couple back together, and then we can actually constructively, without triggering our triggers, find a solution that will improve the overall situations. And also learning, what are the triggers of my partner, right? So if you realize that the partner gets triggered by those, are there other ways to communicate that? And also sometimes not communicating those aspects directly in the during the time of the incident. Maybe find a different time to say, like, I realized this and that, to a different time. Yeah. Now, what else you have? There's a nice quote. Skills direct behavior for a known situation. What does that mean? When we learn skills, communication skills in a relationship, and for specific situations, we learn how to improve in that situation and to work around those struggles. So being able to look at communication challenges, our triggers, looking at, okay, what do I get triggered by? What does my partner get triggered by? We do that individually and then learn skills on how to communicate. At the end, I want to remind everybody, have compassion with yourself first. When you start to look at your own um, projections, positive and negative, it is at the beginning very painful. And take a sheet of paper out and write things down, all your emotions that come with it. The more you do this work, I promise you, the easier it gets. The more you do this work, I promise you, the better your life will get. We are all responsible for our own emotions. So when you said like, oh, you make me do this, or you create this emotion with it, no, we are we are our own. We have to be responsible for these emotions, and when we do, then we have the ability to work through it and improve on those. It is up to us for change. It's not up to us, the partner, right? Um, I made a mistake in previous relationship. I was like, wow, these are obvious things. You have to change this. No, it's their business. If they don't want to change, they don't want to change. They have that right. Will it be hard for them to go through life that way? Absolutely. But when I say like you have to change, it's not my business. So I have to learn what are the things that I have to change, and I just work purely on that, and that will then improve my own life. So reclaim your own projections and be responsible for it, and see how your life will change. I hope you like that, and I talk to you guys soon. One more important aspect that I wanted to add, it's very simple and very profound. Jordan Peterson talked about it. When you're looking for a partner, look for two aspects. And friendship accounts for friendships as well. Number one, is the person there for you when you struggle the most and assisting you, listening to you, whatever form that might be? And number two, is the person cheering you on and genuinely happy for you when you do well? Um, you will be surprised sometimes how some people do one but not the other. So I think when you test all of your friendships and all of your relationships or your current relationship, and then you will get a good understanding where you stand in that relationship. Take care.